This is Iraq, a land holding thousands of years of history and immense natural resources. Iraq has been at the crossroads of all major human civilizations for millennia. And it is said that agriculture, language, mathematics, and engineering all originated here. All major religions and historical texts mention Iraq. Babylon, or what is also called Babel, was the most developed and wealthiest city in the world approximately 2,500 years ago. This city was such a marvel of engineering that researchers today are still astonished by the Babylonians' knowledge and technology. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon remain a mystery to this day and are counted among the 7 wonders of the world. So, how has a country that has been home to civilizations and culture for thousands of years become a hub of war, sectarian violence, and instability? For nearly 100 years, Iraq has been continuously unstable, engulfed in an unending fire. Today, Iraq is so divided that 5 different groups govern it. Central and southern Iraq, including areas around Baghdad and near the Iranian border, are controlled by the Shia group PMF. Northern Iraq is under the control of Kurdish Peshmerga, especially in Erbil, Sulaimaniya, and Dohuk, which form an autonomous region called Iraqi Kurdistan, with its own government, prime minister, and army. Western Iraq, particularly Anbar province, and cities like Ramadi and Fallujah are controlled by Sunni tribal groups. While these Sunni groups support the central government, they enforce their own rules in their areas. Then, there is the area stretching from Baghdad to Basra and Karbala, which is under the control of the Iraqi federal government, headed by Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani. Lastly, the northwestern mountainous region near Syria is controlled by ISIS. Despite being called the birthplace of human innovation and possessing vast resources and a strategic location, Iraq is deeply divided today. The reasons for this lie in Iraq's geography, history, politics, and the involvement of world superpowers. Now let's turn to Iraq's geography. Today's Iraq shares borders with 6 countries: Iran to the east, Kuwait to the southeast, Saudi Arabia to the south, Jordan to the west, Syria to the northwest, and Turkey to the north. Most of Iraq is desert, especially in the west and south. However, between these deserts are 2 major rivers that have allowed civilizations to flourish here for thousands of years: the Tigris and Euphrates. These rivers, originating in Turkey, flow into Iraq and, after crossing the country, empty into the Persian Gulf. Because of these rivers, you can see this lush green region on the map called the Mesopotamian Plains, one of the most fertile areas in the world. These rivers are Iraq's lifeline, but they are also the cause of disputes with Syria and Turkey. Turkey has built dams such as the Ataturk and Ilisu dams on the Tigris and Euphrates, reducing the flow of water into Iraq. Similarly, Syria has constructed the Tabqa Dam on the Euphrates, further reducing water flow into Iraq. As a result, Iraq has diplomatic tensions with these 2 countries. Speaking of Iraq's natural resources, it holds the world's 5th largest oil reserves and the 12th largest natural gas reserves. Interestingly, most of these resources are located in Shia majority areas near Basra, or Kurdish majority areas in the north. This internal civil war in Iraq is partially fueled by these resources. But so far, we have only discussed Iraq's basic geography. Now, we will delve into the root causes of Iraq's problems, which require us to revisit its history. The first recorded mention of Iraq dates back 5,000 years to the Sumerian civilization when it was known as Mesopotamia. The term Mesopotamia means land between 2 rivers, and at that time, it included parts of present-day Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Turkey. The Sumerians were the first civilization here, laying the foundation of astronomy, mathematics, and administration. From 2334 BCE to 2154 BCE, this region became part of the Akkadian Empire. From 1894 BCE to 539 BCE, it was the center of the Babylonian Empire, the most powerful empire of its time, during which the Hanging Gardens of Babylon were constructed. From the 8th to the 13th century, this area became part of the Abbasid Caliphate, known as the Islamic Golden Age. During this period, Baghdad became the global center of knowledge, trade, and innovation, attracting scholars from around the world who translated Persian, Greek, and Indian knowledge into Arabic. It is hard to imagine that Baghdad, now a symbol of war and bloodshed, was once the hub of global knowledge, culture, and political power. It was also the starting point of the European Renaissance. However, in the 13th century, the Mongols destroyed Baghdad completely, and from the 13th to the 15th century, Iraq became part of Mongol and smaller empires. From the 16th to the 20th century, it fell under Ottoman control. For the Ottomans, Iraq was a critical region connecting East and West. After the collapse of the Ottoman Empire in World War I, European colonial empires divided the Middle East for their benefit. The 1916 Sykes-Picot Agreement divided the region between the British and French empires, ignoring ethnic, religious, and tribal realities. Artificial borders were created, splitting the area into Iraq, Turkey, Syria, and Iran. Different cultural and linguistic groups were grouped into one country without consideration. Under the Ottomans, Mosul, Baghdad, and Basra were independent provinces, but the British merged them into Iraq, despite their distinct demographics. For instance, Mosul had a Kurdish majority, Baghdad had Sunni Arab Muslims, and Basra had Shia Arab Muslims. Thus, the south was Shia Arab, the center Sunni Arab, and the north Kurdish. Kuwait, previously part of Iraq, was separated. In 1921, the British installed King Faisal, a Sunni leader, to rule a majority Shia and Kurdish country, ignoring ground realities. These decisions by the British have had lasting consequences for Iraq over the next century. Although Iraq gained independence from British control in 1932, its oil industry remained under British control. From the 1930s to the late 1970s, Iraq experienced political instability and military coups. Finally, in 1979, Saddam Hussein emerged as Iraq's de facto ruler. Saddam promoted Sunni ideology and suppressed the Shia community, leading to the deadly Iran-Iraq War from 1980 to 1988, one of the most devastating wars in Middle Eastern history. In 1990, Saddam attacked Kuwait, sparking the Gulf War, which led to heavy sanctions on Iraq and severe economic damage. In 2003, the United States attacked Iraq, toppling Saddam Hussein's government. His removal created a power vacuum, marking the beginning of a dark period in Iraq. After Saddam's defeat, thousands of Sunni soldiers lost their jobs and watched as Shia groups filled the power vacuum. Their frustration was exploited by Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, who formed a group called Al-Qaeda with two objectives: to expel the US from Iraq and overthrow the new Shia government to establish Sunni rule. This sparked a bloody civil war in Iraq, with Sunnis, Shias, and Kurds fighting for their interests, killing thousands. These groups were backed by foreign countries, which I will discuss further. In 2006, Zarqawi was killed, and Al-Qaeda renamed itself the Islamic State of Iraq, ISI. By 2010, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi became the leader of ISI, and with the Syrian civil war in full swing, the group expanded as people from Syria joined. In 2013, Baghdadi renamed the group ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. In 2014, ISIS captured vast areas in northern and western Iraq, including Mosul, the second largest city in the country. This indicated that ISIS could soon take control of the rest of Iraq. The rise of ISIS alarmed Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, as they feared that such a hardline group in Iraq could destabilize the rest of the Gulf region. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE collectively pushed the United States to intervene. In 2014, the US partnered with Kurdish fighters, Shia militias, and local tribal forces to combat ISIS. This fight lasted until 2017, when ISIS was defeated, and Mosul was liberated from its control. A Shia-majority central government was then installed in Iraq. Since then, Iraq has remained divided among 5 major groups, each supported by external powers. Iran, which shares the longest border with Iraq, heavily backs the Shia militia group PMF and wields significant influence over Iraq's central government. Turkey, on the other hand, has a complex relationship with Iraq. It recognizes the Kurdish Peshmerga government in northern Iraq, but opposes the idea of an independent Kurdish state, fearing it could inspire Kurdish separatists within Turkey. As a result, Turkey conducts airstrikes on Kurdish freedom groups like the PKK in northern Iraq, while financially supporting the Peshmerga, acknowledging their role in defeating ISIS. Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries aim to counter Iran's growing influence and the spread of Shia ideology in Iraq. To achieve this, they support Sunni tribal groups in western Iraq and, at times, the Kurdish Peshmerga to help keep ISIS in check. The United States, despite officially withdrawing from Iraq, remains heavily involved due to its interests in Iraqi oil reserves, countering Iranian influence and preventing the resurgence of ISIS. Meanwhile, other global powers like China and Russia are increasingly interested in Iraq. China, as part of its Belt and Road Initiative, is investing heavily in Iraq's infrastructure and aims to use this region as an alternative to the Suez Canal. Russia's interest in Iraq is tied to its strategic stakes in Syria, where it supports Bashar al-Assad's government. Given the geopolitical significance of the region, where the US maintains a presence, Russia has ensured its involvement as well. Iraq's current situation is deeply complex, rooted in the artificial borders drawn by European powers after World War I. These borders ignored ethnic, religious, and tribal realities, leaving Iraq internally divided. Resolving this divide would either require reversing the century-old borders or implementing widespread efforts to eliminate the hatred among Iraq's factions. With 60% of Iraq's population being young, it is imperative for the country's leaders to unite and work towards peace for the sake of future generations. Without stability in Iraq, the Middle East cannot progress. Like Israel-Palestine, Iraq is a flashpoint that must be addressed to resolve broader Middle Eastern issues. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel for more topics. See you in the next video. Take care.